Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. This episode of Slam the Gavel is sponsored by CPS Protect Consulting Services. A child protective services case is one of the most frightening experiences for any parent. Don't face it alone. Face it with confidence with Urgent Assist by CPS Protect. You can have access to former CPS investigators to make sure you preserve your rights and protect your family. If you're facing CPS involvement and aren't sure where to turn, their child welfare consultants can help you. Visit cpsprotect.com/subscribe and enter the coupon code Slam the Gavel for 60% off your first year of Urgent Assist. And this is available in all 50 states. I have another announcement. Bradley's mother, Narcissa Golden, passed away in the fall of 2022. Bradley is autistic and needs structured routine and therapies he receives for his autism 6 days a week. However, Italy just entrusted Bradley to Italian social services. If he is ruled to go back, he will face the next 3 to 4 years in the Italian foster care system, where he can't speak or understand the language. He will then be taken away from the only family he has ever known. Please call Governor Hochul at 518-474-8390. That's Governor Hochul, New York State, 518-474-8390 to please keep Bradley here safe in these United States. Hashtag keep Bradley safe. I've got another announcement. Go to the site, pleasedoyourjob.com. We need 2,500 more signatures to open a case. That's pleasedoyourjob.com. And also, one last announcement. You are invited to the Interference with Child Custody Coalition Custodial Interference Press Conference on October 31st, 2023 at 10:30 at the PA State Capitol, Harrisburg, PA, in the main rotunda stairs. And I have my return guest on. I'm happy to have Claudia Ovalles back on. She was last on the podcast, season 2, episode 46, season 4, episode 33, 86, and 130. And we're going to talk about accountability and a campaign called hashtag It's Not a Civil Matter. And I totally welcome you, Claudia Ovalles. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me back and allowing me to hold up my sign.
Oh, it needs to be held up. I held my sign.
I saw that. I appreciate that. And I've shared it, in quite a few places online. So thank you again.
Oh, well, there's so much to be done with this because what you passed in Texas, the House Bill 969, and then there was the other one that was the make back time. I know I'm saying that wrong.
The time taken, time back.
Yes, I keep getting that. Yes, these need to be everywhere in every state.
Absolutely, yes, and I know that one is being pushed in other states as well as on a federal level. So I applaud Robert Garza for his efforts with that bill and what he's doing, with assisting to get that implemented in other states. That's a really important.
It is, yeah.
Bill.
And it's because it's about these kids that need to see their parents.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
So you're creating awareness with this campaign, hashtag It's Not a Civil Matter. And, I was telling you earlier, I showed it to a friend and she said, what does that mean? And I thoroughly explained what was going on. And then, it clicked and she got it. And she was happy to get it because she said, yes, this is what's happening to me.
Right. And so the hashtag It's Not a Civil Matter was based on the number one response from law enforcement when parents call them for assistance is that it's a civil matter, meaning go back to court. This is not something that we get involved in. However, that's misinformation because the penal code is black and white and it's been around for over 40 years. So it's not a civil matter. It's criminal to withhold a child, to interfere with child custody. If you have a court order or you have a parenting plan. I think it was recent, a parent shared with us that law enforcement said that it's a civil matter because a parenting plan is not a court order. So these are some of the absurd responses that law enforcement are giving, is that a parenting plan isn't a court order, but if it's signed by a judge and it's been stamped in the court, then that's a valid, piece of paper that should be enforced. So the whole campaign is about spreading awareness. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and this crime is very often investigated and prosecuted under family violence. A few district attorneys may call their unit a family violence unit, and law enforcement investigate these cases under Criminal Investigations Division or Special Victims Unit. Many of the states have a domestic violence bench book, and the law is actually in the domestic violence bench book. So if it's covered under domestic violence in this Department of Justice, bench book, then it is a crime under family violence. And so this should be taken a lot more seriously than it has been. And that's where the hashtag "It's Not a Civil Matter" campaign came from, and why we are pushing it for the entire month of October, because there should be awareness on this when we're talking about domestic violence, and we're not just talking about sexual and physical abuse. We should be talking about this, because this is what's happening with the children.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, because someone will say, well, gee, it's the father or it's the mother, and it's really this is not a gender war. This is about the kids.
Right. Yes. When I hear them say that, to me, you're causing more division than there should be.
Mm-hmm.
We know that it happens to dads, and I support that it happens to dads. I understand that. I'm not trying to invalidate that. I'm not trying to invalidate it happens to moms. It's just happening.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. That's the key thing. It is happening to both. And there's like a tug of war on who's being invalidated and who should this be more focused on. We already know it's a problem. So
Mm-hmm.
let's focus on the problem instead of fighting on who it's happening more to. Is my concern. Regardless, the children are the ones in the middle. They're the ones that are going through this. So that's where our focus is on the child. So when we go into meetings or legislation, we talk about the impact to the child. Not that I don't care about the moms or dads. I'm a parent. I went through this,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to put that off to the side and focus on what's happening to the innocent child that can't speak up or fight for themselves, or that has no idea about the laws or how to spread awareness. So that's where we're focusing on.
Mm-hmm. And that's what needs to be done, because this is going on all the time. And as I told you, it happened to me too. And the same response from the state police was, well, we called and the DA on call said, you'll have to take it back to court. And it's like, no, this was my time to have my children.
Right. And that's one of the issues that we hear a lot is the district attorney has said they're not going to handle these cases or take it back to family court. And that's where you have to elevate a lot of the awareness. So in Texas, it was like kicking the can around. The district attorney would say, well, we would prosecute these cases if we received them from law enforcement. And then law enforcement would say, we would investigate these crimes if the district attorney would prosecute them. So it was just kicking the can around on who should be responsible. And so one of our senators here, he decided to have a meeting, and he invited them both to the meeting. So now we're here. So we want to know what's going on. Is it a crime or not? And will you report it so that you can prosecute it? And he basically called them out. And luckily here they do investigate and they do prosecute for it. But it's not that way in majority of the cities and counties around the U.S. Mm-hmm. There's still that unawareness, the uneducation or the lack of training that law enforcement or sheriffs or deputies have. So because it's gone on so long that they hear child custody, they assume that it's all civil. It's all addressed in family court. But I have a piece of paper that says I'm supposed to be here. So why is this being allowed to happen if there's a law that's being violated? And a lot of these law enforcement, they try to give their opinion or their interpretation of the law. It's really just about, is a crime being committed, yes or no? Your job is just to write the report. Your job is not to determine if it's going to meet elements. That's where an investigator comes in and looks at everything. Maybe there's question about, well, is your court order valid, or is it the most, up to date court order? Maybe you're trying to give me another one. It doesn't matter. Is a crime being committed? And let the investigator determine that. And if it's not the most recent court order or something, then let them say, hey, there is no crime here. But until that point or that moment where it's investigated, you should at least be giving me a report and go from there. So that's something that parents need to be aware of, is the reporting, that it's not informational. There is process for an offense, to record an offense, because it is a felony. A few states have it listed as a misdemeanor, so you really need to understand your law. But the whole point of the campaign is that this is harming children. This is the interference between that parent-child relationship, and by spreading the awareness, we're bringing a lot more attention to it. And we've had a lot of parents, send us their photo, post it on their Facebook, and tag Interference with Child Custody Coalition. And that's all we're asking for, is just, put a photo out there. If you don't want to show your face because maybe you're in the middle of litigation, you can just hold up the sign and just share it with us. It's just really simple. You can write a sign. You can use crayons if you need to, whatever. If you want to have one printed out, I had mine printed out at one of the printing places around town, and they put it on the hard cardboard, and I just kind of have it around in my house, and just to show parents this is really what it is. It's just a hashtag. And again, the hashtag, it's not a civil matter, is based on the number one response that parents are receiving, because it's not a civil matter. Mm-hmm. It's criminal. It's in the penal code. It's been there, for decades.
Definitely. I think would also be a great idea is to have that as a sticker, for the car, for the back of the car, the clear ones in white or whatever color right. The parent wants.
Yeah, I was considering stickers. I was considering magnets. I'm also considering if I could still fix it. You know how we used to have your profile of your Facebook had like some type of frame. If we could do, and it's not a civil matter. I know we still have 2 more weeks left in October, so we're really trying to push whatever ideas or suggestions are out there. So I'll have to tinker with a couple of other things. But the sign was just something that I benchmarked off the Erase Parent, the hashtag Erase Parent movement. And so I wanted to come up with something that we could get parents involved in, because so many of us are in the same kind of having the same issue, where our relationship with our child is either being interfered, or you're being alienated or withheld, or something like that. And many parents go through the family court system just waiting for that motion or for that enforcement, and that's what's going to change their circumstance, and that can take forever, and sometimes it never happens. For right. Most of us, it never happened. Yeah. And so this is a way that you would spread awareness for other parents and for yourself, and that this is something that needs to go on. And one of the things that we did this week, and we work closely with the National Parents Organization, is we had them send out a mass national broadcast, and it went out to all state legislators. It went out to all federal legislators, informing them that it's not a civil matter. So that was something we were able to do on a national level in every state and across the U.S. And we collaborated with National Parents Organization to send that out. And we came back. I've only seen one response, and it was from someone in Missouri, and they wanted to state that their state police have told everyone that it's a civil matter and they're not going to take these cases. But it takes awareness and parents voicing, these concerns to make some form of change. It's not just going to be one parent that can do this by themselves. There needs to be a lot of parents. And so the campaign is just a lot of collaboration to spread these photos, to to take one. And it doesn't just have to be you. You can have your grandparents. Grandparents get alienated too. Grandparents, want to see their grandchildren too. And so just have them, hold up the same photo or the same sign and send in a picture, because sadly they're impacted as well.
Definitely, as well as other relatives. Get
Yes.
everyone in on it. That's what needs to be done. It's got to be a lot of people trying to change this. If you can do it in Texas, it's got to be able to be done in all the other states.
Right. And when laws change, just like you mentioned, the time taken, time back bill, that was SB 718. A lot of these laws, they're already researched. And so it's a lot easier to get a law that's been passed in a state and then introduce it to your legislators. Look, Texas just did this. Can we discuss doing this here? And then it's already been drafted. Now all you got to do is enter those equivalent family codes or whatever family code you're gonna apply it to, and then you got to draft. So it's a lot easier than you think, and it's a lot easier from starting from scratch. So parents can propose the language. It's just knowing who your legislators are, and it could seem overwhelming because most have never talked to a legislator. They're people. They're just regular people that are in that position, and so give it a try and get other parents to do the same thing. And that's basically it. But we help parents do that too. If they want to make some form of legislative change, we help guide them with that as well.
Yeah, and they want to be talked to just like, the down to earth people, and maybe, don't get too caught up in the legal jargon. You can, but mention legal jargon, but don't get too caught up in it. That way they're not overwhelmed and then their eyes glaze over. But, it's got to be talked about.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's basically just reaching out and scheduling a meeting. And when we schedule these meetings, we ask that we'd like to discuss child welfare issues. We don't say, I want to discuss my family case, or I want to get my ex in trouble or report him. We don't bring in all the personal drama. We leave that out. We talk about, we want to make some form of change, because this is a big problem. And the time taken, time back bill, and I'm not sure if you've reached out to Robert Garza about it, but his bill was based on one of the biggest tactics that's used, and that's false allegations. We've seen it, and that's a form of custodial interference, because when they're filing these reports, it's interfering with your time. And I've had to deal with it.
I too, yes.
And so you're interfering with, and normally it's done right before you have some big visit coming. It could be over the summer, and they do it because they want to deny that lengthy period that you would have had bonding with your child, and they don't want that. So they'll file this false allegation claim or whatever, and then the court has to take all these steps and measures, and it's not very often that you'll get the makeup time, because now the child's back in school and let's start off fresh, don't do it again. And there's no accountability. So I really, really love his bill and what it does, because it's not a shall, it's no, it's not a may, it's a shall. The court shall order makeup time. So that's really good.
And I forgot to ask you, was there a statutes of limitation on that bill? I can't remember. Was there
on what bill? The time taken, time back bill? I know it took effect September 1st. I don't think it was a retroactive bill.
Okay.
Most bills aren't, but the statute of limitations, it just depends, because that is a civil bill. That is under the family code. Our statute of limitations also changed on custodial interference, and that was through another mom's bill that was at HB 3025. So normally a statute of limitations for reporting felonies falls under like a 2 or 3 year time frame. And in Texas, that was removed. So now, effective September 1st, if you have a custodial interference case, there is no longer a statute of limitations to report it. But it's the sooner you report it, the better, because everything's fresh and you have evidence and things like that. So keep trying to get reports, and just to learn. It's no different than if you called in and said, my home is broken into, I have a burglar, or I know who did it, or and so then you give all the the victim information, the offenders or violators information, suspect information, things like that. So the sooner you report it, the better. But I mean, it's just about learning and being a little bit more assertive with your rights and knowing the laws, because very often they're going to try to kind of blow you off and say, no, it's civil, go back to court. And then you're like, and you take their word for it that they know what they're talking about. And most times they don't. And most times they've dealt with the same thing and they didn't even know the law existed. So you really have to be very familiar, but stay calm, because we can get very emotional. We do love and miss our children, and we get, very upset. And you really need to relay the facts, not bring in again all the court drama, how long you've been in court, how much you've spent in court. That is not the time and the place to to bring this up when you're trying to report a crime. So,
right, they want to hear the facts, and facts don't have feelings, unfortunately.
yes.
But yeah, in fact, when I would go report to the state police, I was just very matter of factly, and then they were matter of factly saying that the DA on call said that you take it back to family court. It doesn't work when you're dealing with someone who is not going to cooperate at all. And this could stop a lot of, issues and problems for kids in the future. It's got to be done in all states.
And yeah, and one of the biggest things is that it's a lot easier for CPS to file custodial interference on a parent who won't turn over the child than it is for a parent to report the other parent that won't withhold the child. So why is an agency being believed and taken seriously and not told it's a civil matter versus a parent that is reporting the crime? It's not very fair, but it happens where CPS wants to remove your children for whatever reason, and you don't want to, you know that things happen with CPS, and there's been a lot of reform, issues in CPS. So when a parent hesitates to turn the child over to CPS, CPS can report custodial interference, and then law enforcement will write that report, arrest them on the spot, things like that. But they won't do that when parent calls. So it's about knowing your rights. Why is this so much easier for CPS to do than a biological parent who has parental rights? And so those are the things that you need to question and talk to your legislators about. Why is it that way? But anyway, again, the campaign, it's not a civil matter. We just need a sign and a photo. This one's kind of blown up, so I'm trying to get it in the frame of my camera. But you can just get a piece of notebook paper, index card. Someone cut out a small little piece of paper. Robert Garza did one for us. I'm trying to get others. I'm trying to see if I can get Cash Jackson to do one for us. And then just other advocates that have a really large platform that could do it and send it our way. Rael had a sheriff in Georgia, a deputy, hold up the sign, which is pretty amazing, because in Georgia, and that part of Georgia, they enforce it. And so he was really willing to hold up the sign. So, anyone could hold it up. You have a pet, you want to prop it up next to your pet, do that.
Like that.
Yeah.
So the state of Georgia does enforce it. They do it.
Well, it's just this specific town that she was in, and she had her sign, and they saw a deputy, and he says, "Oh yeah, we enforce that law." And so she's like, "Would you hold up the sign?" And she took a photo, and it's a deputy dressed in uniform holding up. It's not a civil matter. So it just depends, where you are, and if you're going to legislate this, maybe the law is enforced, but not in every county or city. And maybe it's a training piece. Maybe you need to hit on training. Because it's out there. The law's been out there. When they go through the academy, a lot of these law enforcement cadets, when they go through the academy, they don't touch on it like they do other criminal penal codes. They just said, "Oh, okay, it's custodial interference. Move on to the next training piece." So they don't really spend a lot of time on it. And maybe that's what you could be legislating for, is that we need more training, or something like that. There's so much you could do legislatively. You just have to get started. But yeah, so the It's Not a Civil Matter campaign is going to go through the whole month of October. And if anyone wants to participate, you could email your sign to heroesforchildren'srights@gmail.com. You can go to the Interference with Child Custody Coalition Facebook page and send it to us by direct message. And if we post any reminders, you can upload it as a comment if you'd like. That's what we've been looking for, and we save them. And then we are creating a big collage of parents holding up the sign. This isn't going to be the only time we do this. We feel that it needs to have a lot more attention to it. And we're gaining followers, we're gaining support, and it's a law that's out there, and many people want to push for other things. What this is, instead of reinventing the wheel, push what's already existing, because it just needs to be enforced. And your laws need to change. Well, that's something that you could work on and in the meantime. But spreading awareness isn't going to, it's not going to hurt just to hold up the sign and take a photo. It's something that you can do. Everybody has a phone, we're on the phone all the time.
Right.
So yeah, it doesn't take a lot of time to do it. So we appreciate anyone that's done it already.
Mm-hmm.
And for those that are listening, if you could help us out this month, that would be really great.
Yeah, I strongly encourage that. It's easy to do, it's painless, and it helps the kids in the long run. And that needs to be done. They need to see both parents, in the absence of, abuse, but it's got to be done. It's just so sad when a child wants to see the other parent and they can't. No kid should have to go through that. They should just be living their childhoods with no extreme worries or stress.
Right. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that happens. And, a lot of us didn't know we were going to be here, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, but we're here and we're still trying to make a difference in some way, and using our experience. And that's what this was about, was just learning it and then sharing it. And now a lot more people are aware of it. And so we're just, again, spreading awareness, ensuring kids see both parents like they should, and empowering parents in the meantime, because oftentimes they feel helpless, like they can't do anything. This doesn't cost any money, just a piece of paper, take a picture and send it in. So we'll just fight together, and we won't have this division, because it's all for the kids.
Excellent. Well said. What was the Heroes for
Children's Rights @gmail.com.
Okay. I'll have all that in the podcast notes, but don't jump off. Slap the Gals, a podcast, help the public understand what really goes on in these family courtrooms. I am your host, Marianne Petrie, author of Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, and Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth, and recently released Raised by These Wolves, How Family and Federal Courts Are Failing Our Children. Please join us again here with Claudia Ovalles in the future. You can find us on Spotify, Apple iTunes, YouTube, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, and feel free to donate to buy me a coffee to help keep the podcast going. Thank you so much, Claudia.
Thank you.